This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and boy, is it Samsung month, huh? We've just looked at the Z Flip 3 and the Z Fold 3, and there'll be more coverage of those. And now we have the new Galaxy Watch 4 and Galaxy Watch 4 Classic. The first of these Samsung watches to be running Android Wear, or Wear OS as it's now called. And boy, I was afraid about this because, I actually am pretty well qualified to review these things because I use the Galaxy Watch Active 2 regularly with my Samsung phones. And I also use the Apple Watch 6. And boy, have I become a connoisseur. And I've used some Android Wear watches, which, let's face it, none of them are very good. And when I heard that Samsung was dropping Tizen and going to Wear OS, I was like, oh, there goes a good thing. Guess what? It's actually okay. We're going to look at them now. So first off, excuse the chunky microphone. We're having a little audio difficulties right now, and until we get our new lavalier mic in, you're just going to see this little chunk on my neck until we're good with that. Anyway, Galaxy Watch 4 and Galaxy Watch 4 Classic. They don't look so different anymore because the Galaxy Watch Classic model, which is the more traditional menswear looking bulky, how else to describe it, kind of watch, is a little more sleek and a little bit less doodaddy and chunky. And then we have the slimmer watch that's always been around here. $100 separates these in price. It used to be more feature differences, but now really not so much. They're both available with 1.2-inch and 1.4-inch OLED watch faces, same resolution regardless of whether you go with the classic or the non-classic models. And you've got the only physical difference besides the look, the design, right, is that the Classic still has that physical rotating bezel, which is really very delightful that the Galaxy Watch 3 had. You know how it goes. It's really nice and easy to use. The drawback is because the glass is inset, it's harder to do swiping gestures on it, but you do have the bezel. Also, obviously, it protects the display a little bit more, though I've been wearing the Galaxy Watch Active 2 for a year, and I've never damaged it yet. Also, there's going to be a difference in battery capacity. With the bigger watch, there is room for a bigger battery. We'll throw those specs on screen so you can see the differences right now. And a weight difference, because just like the new Z Fold and Z Flip phones that we reviewed, this is armor aluminum. So it's supposed to be stronger than 7000 series aluminum on a former Active design, now just called Galaxy Watch 4. And for the Classic, it's still stainless steel. So we're talking a significant difference in weight. For the smaller size of each of these watches, the Galaxy Watch 4 weighs just 26 grams, while you're looking at like around 47 grams for the Classic. And now a shout out to our sponsor, DataCamp. Marketing analytics, SQL, data analysis, those are not just techie buzzwords. They're a way to actually make good money so you can buy all these gadgets that we review on our channel. From learning how companies actually learn how to make the things that you decide to buy, marketing analytics, to Python, to SQL, data management. You want to become an advanced database administrator. Say you're a beginner, you can learn these things. Say you already know some and you need to learn more, DataCamp is there for you. And it's all done in a web browser or on your phone. So no need to have a super powerful computer. You can do it anywhere. Handy stuff there. You can combine video classes with practical exercises, and they have tests so you can check to make sure you're actually learning what you should be learning. A DataCamp subscription starts at just $25 for unlimited access to courses. Invest in yourself. Use my link in the description to check out the first chapter of any course for free. And now back to our video. So both of these watches are for Android users. You do not have to own a Samsung to use them. They are not compatible with iOS. But given how popular the Apple Watch is for the iPhone crowd, I don't think many people are thinking about crossing over anyway. So let's talk about that. Any Android. So that was true before, but now that we've got Wear OS 3 here and Samsung's One UI 3.1 on top, and these are the first watches to get that. If you want to see these in other watches wearing with the Snapdragon Wear 4100 CPU, maybe by the end of the year, the upcoming Fossil Watch Gen 6 will have it. The TicWatch Pro 3 will eventually get it. But anyway, the difference is, if you want to use health applications, you can use Google Fit, for example. If you like Samsung Health better, which is more full-featured, I do prefer it. It's a pretty darn good one-stop health app. Then you're going to need a Samsung phone because that uses the Samsung Monitor app phone companion. If you're using any Android phone that isn't a Samsung, or you are using a Samsung, you'll still install the Samsung Wearable app, and that lets you manage and track various data. Full-featured smartwatch, so besides the usual notifications, managing of texts, yes, you can make and receive phone calls on these, even without the LTE model. You just have to have the phone within Bluetooth range or Wi-Fi range. But if you want to do things like look at your sleep tracking and monitor your fitness trends and your exercise and all that stuff, that's when you want the watch app, obviously. And it's easier to manage the settings and the watch faces and stuff like that using the app on your phone. While we're still talking about all things Wear and new Wear OS versus Tizen, the look and feel of the watches is much like the previous Samsung Tizen-based watches, and I think that's a good thing. It was a very intuitive, easy-to-use interface. We have a dual-core Exynos CPU on hand, and performance is fluid. No sluggishness, no pausing, no weirdness, any of that sort of thing. When it comes to using the various tiles, which are the swipeable functions to go from like your health tracking, fitness tracking, to your blood oxygen monitoring to anything else. It's a lot like what you've seen on Tizen watches. That's all great stuff. But when we bring the googly stuff in here, you have access to Google apps that you didn't before. For example, you have Google Maps on the watch now too, which I think most people prefer. If you want to use Google Pay and not just Samsung Pay, though I know Samsung Pay is pretty popular, but if you don't have a Samsung phone, for example, you can use Google Pay. Now, here's one real big hurt that's missing right now, and Samsung and Google say it's coming later, hopefully not too much later. There's no Google Assistant still on these watches, and I think most everybody uses Google Assistant who has an Android phone, right? But Bixby, nobody likes Bixby. You know, people make Bixby jokes. There's a reason why Bixby is a second-class voice assistant, folks. So you're going to have to wait for Google Assistant. One thing that Wear OS does bring is a better app selection. One thing with the Tizen watches, the apps were not really very exciting. So now you have the access to the Google Play Store and all the watch apps on there. Is it as voluminous as what you would find for the Apple Watch? No, you know, if you want the Starbucks app or the CNN app, not going to find it, but there's still quite a good selection. And there's Strava, you know, there's health-related things, there's Ring, for example, notifications get piped on at work and all that sort of thing. So it's not so bad. You've got a weather app that's built in, which is quite a good one, and you can swipe through and see the hourly forecast and the daily forecast and all that sort of thing. But if you want the actual Weather Channel app, you can get that for the Apple Watch, but not on Android Wear. Both watches are IP68 water resistant and dust resistant and MIL STD 810G durable. What does that mean? You can go swimming with them and that's fine, but not scuba diving. No 50 atmospheres down. The faces are protected with Gorilla Glass DX. Again, I've owned the previous generations of these with Gorilla Glass and it's been just fine. I haven't had any more or any fewer scratches than I get on my Apple Watch. Actually, maybe a little bit less. The bands that come with these are pretty depressing out of the box. I remember when the classic style watch came with maybe a nice leather band or something a little bit more dressy. These come with fluoroelastomer, dull-looking bands. The classic has a rigid band, whereas it's a flat, more sleek and modern look for the non-classic model. Of course, you can buy more watch bands. Samsung has a selection. There's third parties. If you want leather, if you want more colorful silicone, the options are there. Just like last generation, you have little pins on the watch band. It's not hard to swap them, honestly. A little bit more fiddly than the Apple Watch, but not too hard. So 20 millimeter or 22 millimeter, depending whether you get the smaller or larger version of the watches. The watches have Bluetooth for communicating with your smartphone and also Wi-Fi and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Now it's dual band, which I think is just awesome. So I hate keeping around legacy 2.4 gigahertz just for, well, my watches and nothing else. And it works pretty well. It hands off and you can have it vibrate to let you know if it's lost and regain connectivity. So it's pretty easy to actually monitor how well it's connecting. And the distances are pretty good. So for example, I leave my phone in one room of the house and I forget and I go in the backyard and I've left my phone behind, and yet I still get phone calls and notifications because the Wi-Fi extends into the backyard. So that's all good. If you want to spend $50 more for either of these watches, though, you can get it with 4G LTE as well, and it uses an eSIM. So most carriers charge about $10 a month for wireless coverage, and that extends you obviously beyond the reach of Wi-Fi. And for those of you who like to leave your phone behind or forget and leave your phone behind, you still can have some degree of connectivity there. Health tracking, something that Samsung's really put a lot of energy into, and they have done a very good job, has gotten even better, mostly because the sensors and the technology improves on these. And so you've got sleep tracking, and it gives you the information about what stage of sleep you were in for how long and all that sort of thing with the graphs. It's pretty granular, and I mean, I haven't participated in the sleep study, so I can't say how accurate they are, but compared to other health devices that I have worn, Fitbits and things like that, it seems like it's doing a pretty good job. Not only that, you have a blood oxygen sensor, which for me was not too fiddly. It actually worked pretty well on demand, unlike my Apple Watch 6, which I don't know what it is, but just the on-demand blood oxygen sensor almost never wants to work for me, but it does okay when I'm not asking to do it specifically. And when you're sleeping, it can measure both of the new Samsung watches, your blood oxygen every minute. And that can be used in conjunction with the new Am I Snoring feature. So I believe this one requires a Samsung Galaxy phone, and you're going to have to set that up right next to your bed with the microphone facing towards you. And it has to be on a charger. It can be a wireless charger. And it will listen for your snoring, and it will record it. So no more your spouse saying, I swear you snored and you don't know how loud it is, because your phone is going to give you recordings in the morning. So what's the use of that? In case you have sleep apnea or you didn't sleep well, and if you look at it, it tells you what time it recorded the snores. And if that matches drops in blood oxygen, you might have to tell yourself, maybe I should get checked for sleep apnea, which is not breathing really well when you're sleeping. One thing I will say so far, at least on me, for all of these smartwatches that I've tested that do have blood oxygen sensors, they always read a little bit lower compared to one of these little finger devices that you put on. You can get them anywhere, drugstores, Walmarts, whatever, for about 20 bucks. And those are much more accurate and like what your doctor would use. So say I measure 99% on the little finger monitor, I might only measure 95% on the watch. So don't have a panic if you see it looking a little low. And also when you're sleeping, doctors say that your blood oxygen level can go down. That's normal because you're breathing shallowly and slowly. So it can go down as low as 90% on a healthy individual. So don't worry too much about that. There's also an EKG reading because that's all the rage. It seems to work to me. I don't have AFib, and it doesn't say I have AFib, just like the Apple Watch. You're like, okay, it's there for people who do need that feature. I'm just not one of them. Something that's pretty neat is Samsung Health has always given you an idea of your BMI, which is your body mass index, by asking your height and your weight. But we all know that's not the most efficient way, right? Because they're big bodybuilders who are like 100% muscle, but technically they would look overweight by those metrics. So this has some electrical sensors. Basically, it sends a little current, don't worry, you're not going to get zapped or feel it, through your skin and your body to try to figure out how much of you is water versus muscle, because there's different electrical resistances, versus fat, which has more resistance, to give you something more accurate. And I can show you what I got, and I think, well, you can see the body build that I have. I'm pretty low on fat and all that sort of thing, and I lift weights, so it shows pretty good muscle mass, it shows pretty low body fat. It seems fairly accurate, and it's about within 5% of what you would get from a nice high-end smart scale that tries to do the same thing for you. You can't use it if you have a pacemaker, though. Just those little electrical impulses just might not be good for your pacemaker, they say. The watches do have a GPS that will hit battery life. Speaking of battery life, now I've got the smaller version of each of these watches, so they both have the smaller of the two battery options. It's only about 20 milliamp difference between them. Not that huge, but GPS will hit it harder. So if you're somebody who's going on a long day hike, for example, yeah, you might get 8 or 10 hours or something out of the watch versus a normal person who wears it and uses the GPS function when they go out for a 35-minute jog or something like that. When I did the test for these, I also used them for sleep tracking. So that's continuous use. And I had it measuring the blood oxygen and the whole 9 yards. The heart rate monitor was set to always on. So I got about 1.5 days on a charge with it being used continuously. And that's with 40 minutes of exercise thrown in as well, where it also monitors your heart rate much more frequently. So that's not exciting. It's okay. I wish it was better. I guess it's a trade-off between how big and heavy you want the watch to be and all that sort of thing. For those of you who are not using it for sleep tracking, I'm sure you would get 2 days. And Samsung says 40 hours of use time. There you go. And if you're somebody who really hates exercise and you don't exercise, it would be better too. So it's okay. It's not so different from my Apple Watch 6. Someday maybe these will all be better. As ever, these charge via wireless charging, and they come with the little wireless charger in the box. Yay that. Not the actual plug that plugs into the wall, though, but just the wireless charging base and the cord. So you're going to use a phone charger or whatever to charge them up. You can use cheap wireless chargers, but only certain kinds. For example, this one, but not this one from Samsung. And of course, if you have a phone that supports reverse wireless charging, you can charge them that way. Charging is not that fast on these watches. I imagine there are thermal constraints. They don't want to melt the thing down, but they do say that 30 minutes gets you about 10 hours of use time. So that sounds about right. For me, it took certainly way more than an hour, about an hour and a half to charge from 25% to completely 100% full. The watches do work with Bluetooth headphones and earbuds. As always, I tested them with the Galaxy Buds too, and they work just fine. These days, most people are probably going to be using streaming more than local storage, but you do have 16 gigs of local storage on the watches. So there you have it. We've talked a lot about the specs and the features and all that sort of thing. Are they worth getting? Certainly, if you're looking for a smartwatch and you're somebody who's into exercise, you monitor anything from running to hiking to yoga to rowing machines, all sorts of things like that, your sleep, your blood oxygen levels, all those things, then yes, they're definitely worth getting. If you're just looking for the smartwatch features alone and you have an Android phone, most definitely. And these will be the best this year because, well, the new Wear OS with Samsung's customizations are all that. And other Android Wear watches won't even be seeing this until maybe the end of 2021. I don't know. But even that said, at $249 starting price for the regular Watch 4, not bad for what you get. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and thumbs up if you like this vid.